Got Scott Lackey from Jugular. Right, that was excellent, because it's late in the afternoon, and that's a dead zone for a presentation, basically. You see when you're going to present it, you say, boy, I have to have an awful lot of energy, or the crowd has to be really nasty. So, we're an ad agency in New York. We work in a number of different media. The one we spend most of our time on is digital. We build websites, and we do a lot of social media. So what we decided to talk about today was 10 ways to create social content that works. 10 ways, why 10 ways? Well, it works for BuzzFeed. It seems to work for every magazine you ever read. So we wanted to take a very focused look at what, in our experience, both with third parties and ourselves, and there aren't many examples of ourselves here, we feel has worked. So how many of you do, just would be helpful for the background in talking with you, how many of you do social media for brands? 2, 3, 4, 5. As agencies or as clients? Agency, draw your client. You're very close to them. You have a car. See, that's a very smart agency. In any case, how about some of the others of you who raised their hands? There were some people in the back who create content for brands, for clients, for themselves, for your own brand. Tell us about that just for a minute. What do you do?
I run a health and fitness media startup. So I create a lot of social content for my own brand. I don't work with any agencies. Just get all the information based on what my users want.
Okay, so a healthcare media startup?
Health and fitness.
Health fitness media startup. Oh, good. Well, we have something relevant for you for that. How about the rest of you? Do you use social media? Raise your hands if you use social media. Oh boy, what a surprise. What's your favorite social media? Raise your hands if your favorite social media platform is Facebook. Raise your hands if your favorite social media platform is Twitter. Oh boy, the trend may be true. Raise your hands if your favorite social media type is Pinterest. Recipes. What about G+?
Instagram.
G, Google+. No one's sure about that. Okay, so pretty vital interest in it. And Instagram. Yeah, sorry, Facebook. What about Instagram? Erin, by the way, is a creative director at Jugular. She's going to correct me when I say foolish things, and hopefully contribute to the presentation. Not hopefully, she will, I'm sure. Let's start and look at these 10 things. They're not complicated. Many of them you already know. I just think it's worthwhile to put them down and think about them when you're considering this kind of very difficult job sometimes of what should I post? You know, the what should I post dilemma of I do this every day, I do this several times a day, I do this 8 times a day, what the heck should I post? So let's look at the first one. Let's go back. To make news, to make big news, to make disruptive news. News is a great thing to post, no doubt about it. People care about news, people pay attention to news if it's relevant to them. So, here's an example. Last week, Starbucks announced a college achievement plan. Great thing to post on social media. Because it was newsworthy, because it was disruptive, because people cared about it. The comments were unbelievable. People were writing things like, I'm going to go down to Starbucks and apply for a job. How much better can you do? In many ways, And it also came, interestingly enough, at least to us, a few days before they raised their prices by about 10 to 20 cents. So what a better way to rationalize a price increase and help finance this program than to raise the price. So one thing for you to do if you're doing this kind of thing is, whether it's personal or professional, what news do you have to say? Personal news, I'm getting married, I got married, I'm having a baby, I got divorced, all does incredibly well. But this was just at the beginning of this, and there have been 1,661 shares, which is really, really important, because those people are sharing it into their newsfeed and reaching other friends. So, newsworthy and helpful. Let me share that, other people could benefit from it. So, you don't have to be giving away a college education. You have to be giving away, you don't even have to be giving away anything. You have to be generating news that's relevant to your target audience, and it's important. Unimportant news, less so. Press releases about the latest feature on a product, avoid. So keep that in mind. That's one thing to do. The second thing to consider is to tie into popular events. And certainly we see this all over the place right now. I mean, what popular event have you seen in social media that people are tying into the most? Yeah, the World Cup. It's unavoidable, both in personal streams and in business streams. What's the best World Cup use of social media you've seen by a brand?
Snickers.
Why?
You saw it earlier today. So you know what happened yesterday with Suarez, who beat one of the Italian players. So yesterday, Snickers brought out a campaign that said something like "tastier than Italians."
I love that. Yes, that might rival the Oreo campaign at some point, but very relevant, very topical. I guess newsworthy, certainly newsworthy. And comic to a certain extent, as long as you don't mind being big. So, and very, very, very trending, no doubt about it. So, capitalizing on that. What else in the World Cup? Have you seen any other campaign in the World Cup? Excuse me?
Already.
And how's that been? What have you thought about that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, using it as an announcement or
Right.
FIFA app, whenever you want to bring new service.
Right.
They mention that already.
Right.
Already.
Right. Yeah. Have any of you personally tweeted about the World Cup?
Yes.
You have. What have you tweeted about?
Well, I'm Dutch, so we first stretched to Spanish.
I like your attitude. It's very visceral.
Well, it was about 4 years ago we lost, so there was a lot at stake for us. But the World Cup is of interest. Yeah, definitely. But newsworthy items, not from a professional, from a personal point of view.
Right. So here's a good example, we think, of somebody who does this well, and they've done this well for years. They have an enormous base of talent to do it with. Nike, they have this stable of athletes. They developed, and it's well worth looking at if you haven't seen it, 5.5 minute or so animated piece of video with their talent, with their soccer talent. It's really, really entertaining, really, really well done. So, a lot of shares, a lot of likes, so on and so forth. Let's look at a third. A third is to make emotional appeals. Emotional appeals work really, really well in social media for brands. You don't often think of brands always as having emotions, but if you can play on them, it's a very successful thing. So, the king of this stuff is Walt Disney. Because Walt Disney has this wellspring of good feeling towards them from people's childhood and from their days of bringing their children to Walt Disney. So they're very, very adept at playing upon emotion. Here's a great example of a very recent post on Twitter from June 22nd that said, "The Lady and the Tramp opened in theaters this day in 1955. So what are they doing here? It's really interesting. They're combining, number one, kind of a news event looked at backwards with emotion, the whole emotion of the Lady and the Tramp, the whole emotion of the fact that Disney re-releases these things on an ongoing basis, and maybe you should look at this, and this kind of nostalgic picture of the park. What do people post? This is just one of many as a response. Love this movie, and then they post those carefully cropped, what are those things called? Those carefully cropped. Okay, excellent, thank you. Other things were like the 1955 version of the movie. People were just, and whenever, it always strikes us that whenever people take photos of their own personal experience with a brand and post it, it's great. Okay, so next, provide educational information. To us, this is really one of the most successful ways to go, because suddenly social media networks become relevant to people and in an important way, because they learn something from them that they care about. It's not just a brand, but it's about them. So if you look at this next post, we have a tequila which is called Blue Nectar Tequila. We're lucky to have a tequila because people are innately interested in it. Seemingly, it's a high interest category, a very high interest category. But some posts work really well and others don't. The one thing we found, and I guess it's really not all that surprising, but it took us a little while to find, is that recipes to a targeted audience of people who drink tequila work really, really well. And they're shared at a very high rate. So if you show a recipe in a very sort of succinct way, the ingredients, with a very appetizing photo, it's shared a lot. Like here, 216 times with a tremendous number of likes. Do you need recipes to share? No, you don't need recipes to share. You need helpful information that your target's going to find valuable that they're going to share. Much like the people who shared the information from Starbucks about the college program. These people are sending tequila recipes to their friends. And they'll frequently, they'll call their friends out, and then they'll list the date they want to make it, which is great. You know, July 4th, or you know, something along those lines. So it becomes a social occasion, it becomes a social kind of sharing, the real kind of social sharing in certain ways. Another way to succeed with content is to give them what they really want, free stuff. That's sort of crassly expressed, I guess. But people love free stuff if it's relevant to them. Here's a contest we ran for Fry Food Company a few years ago, where if you sent a picture in of yourself in Fry boots, you could win a Fry shopping spree if you were voted the most, you know, the best photo by the follower. This person sent in bridal boots. It's a pretty persuasive photo, actually. What's that?
In front of Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, in front of Lake Tahoe. It became very controversial because many people wrote in and said that that was a professional photograph. So how to deal with that was an interesting thing. How did, you don't remember? That's a cop-out. I think they accused us of using a professional photograph, but we didn't know. So I mean, we didn't know. I mean, we couldn't possibly pursue the person and say that.
It was in the rules that no professional photography was allowed. That was why.
These days, everybody got a DSLR picture themselves.
Yeah, it could look professional.
You
That
know-
was why, I think that's how we got out of it, because you can't prove it's professional.
You're right, exactly. And I mean, it so much looks like she took the photo to enter the contest, really, in many, many ways. I mean, it's perfect. It's the ultimate fry boot shot in some way. You all know this, and it's the reason for Instagram, but it's worth reminding, and many, many other success on many, many other social networks. But it's really, really, really important. And I mean, about 3 years ago, everyone started writing articles about great photos drive social media. And they're right. People care much more about visuals than they care about text, by and large. So, this is an example of another client we have. Beautiful pool at a resort in Mexico, at a hacienda in Mexico. Kind of a dreamy sort of photo. 80 people shared a picture of a pool. And not that many people saw this to start with, but 80 people shared a picture of a pool. Think about that. It's just a pool. Interesting, if you show them a day shot that is the exact duplicate of this shot and a night shot, the night shot performs much better because of the lighting. No surprise. And it's fun. I mean, it's fun to sort of, just if you're that kind of person, it's fun to test sort of just variants of photos over time that are similar. Another is to inspire self-improvement. And certainly if you're running any sort of exercise site of any type, inspiring self-improvement is a wonderful way to go. People care greatly about this. Your toughest opponent is in the mirror. We found the quotes, when designed like this, and this is a custom design, do very, very well when they nail it. Vince Lombardi nails it with this crowd. John Wooden nailed it pretty consistently. Quotes from him. The ones we made up, which I think this one would be made up, because we wanted to make some up ourselves, so it wasn't the same old quote you see all the time. Do very, very well with this audience. Quotes have been overexposed, we think. They're everywhere. But the right quotes do very, very well.
The thing is, we hate using quotes because we use quotes for so many clients, it feels so redundant and cheesy a little bit. But in the end, people react very well to them, especially, Equinox just launched a new app where they have like a saying that's like, make me, and then it inspires you to go to the gym. And it was sort of the same thing you were doing here. It feels overdone, but that's just to you personally. So sometimes you have to look past you as the agency, being like, oh my God, we feel like we've done this so many times, and so many people are doing it, but the audience loves it, needs it on, and that's what really matters, actually.
Ernest Hemingway quotes about alcohol work brilliant.
They do.
Just brilliant. People love Ernest Hemingway on alcohol. Our client fights us every time we try to do run one. Because he thinks, well, maybe this is a little over the line. Yeah, he's right to be concerned with what we have run. The next area is have a little fun. Fun is important. It's always important to have fun. People aren't looking at social media from brands to be bored. Most of them aren't looking at social media from brands because they love you so much. They want to know everything about you. Some do, most don't. So, Bud does a great job of this, just a great job. Summer's finally here. We've been waiting all year for this. You know, great fun. Perfect for the brand and the brand image and the brand voice. You picked this out. Did you want to say anything else about it?
They inspire a lot of content generation from their audience, which is what impresses me most about their feed, is they have more engagement from fans than a lot of spirits accounts that we follow, just because we do a lot of spirits. They have people constantly posting funny photos on their wall of things that they made out of beer cans, and I think that's what's so great about their page is, I mean, the best job you can do is when your fans are sending in awesome photos for you to post. It also makes your life a lot easier, but that means people are really involved, and I think their creative inspires their audience to come up with funny stuff as well. So it's this like back and forth, which is really interesting that I don't think a lot of people have. So.
You know, if we took a picture of those cookies and we tweeted it out with the hashtag for this event, more people will go to it next time. Their mini cupcakes, even better. Okay, here's another. Connect social life to real life. This is an example of a program we ran for Remy Martin. Erin, why don't you talk about this too?
Sure. Feel bad I'm taking over on you right now.
No, not at all.
So we ran this program with an experiential agency based out of Tribeca that does a lot of work for spirits accounts. So essentially they run events in bars. I'm sure everyone here has been in a bar when there's an event being run by Jameson. They're giving shot girls coming around, giving you free shots, take a photo, here's some free stuff. So the idea here was, who wants to be a Remy Martin ringleader? There were multiple ringleaders per city, so Boston, Miami, et cetera, et cetera. They were filmed on an iPad in the bar, and the video was uploaded to YouTube. It was sent to you via email, and you were supposed to share it with all your friends. Then people would vote on you on this social media landing page. And the idea here was for, obviously, you, if you want to be a ringleader, to share it with your social network. So this really, really, really grew the page very quickly because all of these people were very, very engaged, and the program blew up. It also, the fun thing here was it connected the bar to social. So people were in the bars really thinking about their social pages, posting to Instagram, posting to Facebook, which just added another layer. The main thing we've done a lot of spirits work is this constant battle of trying to get people engaged while in a bar. And this kind of program works really well. So.
And a ringleader was what? That was one of the best parts of this. People's definition of why they were ringleaders.
And it changed per person.
And it was kind of fun because we didn't over-define it.
No.
We didn't over-define what a ringleader was. We kind of let them define what it was. And the range of ringleaders we found was pretty amazing. And lots of bar kind of scenery too. And a very complicated program in pulling images up on a holding page on YouTube overnight and then ferrying these things out to use them. If you look at the next and last, take advantage of influencers. We put together and are doing more of this, programs with influencers. Social influencers, carefully identified people who have credibility in the marketplace, who can represent your brand. It works well in certain categories, less well in others. And you cannot ask these people to become shills for your brand. And that's really the hard part, because once they become a shill, you've done them a disservice. If they're a respectable blogger or presence on social media, and you've done yourself a disservice because they're shill. And no one believes what they're saying. So here's an example of a few things we've done with luggage. And one of the great things we were able to do with this Revo luggage account we have is just give people luggage and ask them to take photos of it around the world, everywhere they've been. So it was an easy way to get a lot of photography inexpensively from real life people that could go on Instagram and go on their own posts, on their own accounts. And it's a very useful way to operate. Travel bloggers, these, yes, we're travel bloggers. We're currently looking at, in food, for a new food client, we got recipe people, obviously, and chefs, you know, and people that exist in that whole food universe, which is, again, another very, very interesting area. So those are 10 ideas. It's certainly not the only 10 by any means. They're 10 that have worked for us. They're 10 sort of reliable ways to go. It's good to keep them in mind when you're trying to come up with additional ideas, merging them together, doing more than one at a time, doing just one. So hopefully that's helpful. If any of you have questions, happy to answer them. Good. I mean, if you didn't have questions, I would have been really a failure. Would have gone home and been depressed all evening.
How do you set clients' expectations on KPIs and success?
Yeah, we set them up very, very carefully. It's easy to report on all of the information that is available. It's easy to report on likes, it's easy to report on shares, it's easy to report on reach, all of that. ROI is hard. I think the breakthrough, hopefully, we're going to have with a new client, and we'll have them with other clients, is putting together specific promotions on social media together with their partners, their retail partners. So if they have a retail partner, we have a product, we put together a promotion, we advertise on the pages of their partner to reach their target audience, can generate coupons and other things, a certain kind of fairly solid feedback on ROI. Because that's what every CEO does. I mean, that's what you hear all the time. You walk into an office and they say, well, what's the ROI on this? And you know, they don't care about pretty pictures or really any of these kind of things.
Actually, that's a question. In your opinion, everybody has different opinions regarding social media. More as brand exposure, more of exposure tool for a certain brand, or it's actually more of an ROI. Is it immediate ROI, like rate of investment? I only want to make an investment out of it, or I just want to have more of exposure for my brand, for people to get to it, and they want to they love it themselves as well.
I think in an ideal world, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, because this is lately, we're facing the clients, they're always asking, what's the ROI? But on the other hand, but you're also giving it more of the brand exposure for people to get to know the brand. It's a nice thing.
Right. Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, I think you have to be able to answer both. I think if you can't answer both, or we think if you can't answer both, you're really probably increasingly going to be challenged. Certainly brand exposure for sure. There's no doubt about it. And really, when you look at it, pretty efficient brand exposure. Compare it to print, compare it to television, compare it to a lot of other media types where people don't grill you on ROI all the time. But at the same time, you walk into a CEO's office, the CEO says, well, what's the ROI? I want you to measure the ROI in this program. And so you have to figure out a way to do that to the best of your ability. I mean, I sat, as did Aaron, in California in a CEO's office 2 weeks ago, and the only thing he's going to care about is that. And if it doesn't get shown to him, he'll kill the program. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Why, I don't think anything else, he'll say that's nice. Yeah, I've gotten some brand exposure, but what has it done for me and my house?
Because we're not always running an advertising products on your Facebook page or on your social pages. Every business will like launch a product on their social page or like during the week or weekdays or sometimes they just like social business.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is that clients are impressed by is little victories. So I think if you're able to take opinion leaders in a category and recruit them in an organized fashion and marshal them against your cause, they really are impressed by that. I think too, if you're able to put programs, as I said, together to work with their retailers, to combine your efforts as a client, as an agency with your client, with their distributors, retailers, whatever, that's a very effective way of doing it, because then you can point and say, look and see what we've done. And then I think the third way is to say, look at this, look at all this, kind of traditional exposure we have, as you would get 10, 15, 20 years ago. Do you have anything else on that?
It's also super trackable, so it's really easy to prove. I mean, if you're driving traffic back to the website, I mean, the great thing about social media is you can track everything you're doing. You can track link back, you can track everything out there. So, some of the things we do for all of our, we try to do as many promotions as possible to prove to our clients that social media does work. So for the Inner Armour, the sports supplement brand, they actually didn't sell product on their website, but the CEO was really, really obsessed with ROI. So we fought with some of the retailers, Vitamin Shop, et cetera, to do special sales for Facebook. So we would send out a code, Black Friday specials, et cetera, and could track that really easily. So we try as hard as possible to come up with ways to prove, to show ROI on things that we run. And it doesn't always have to be promotion. Sometimes it's just, I guess a lot of the time, it is, right? But it's sort of the way it is.
Yeah, that's what it's more about brand exposure rather than ROI. Sometimes.
But I think also driving people to your website, it depends on the product. It's so dependent on the product. It's hard. Yeah, exactly. But ROI, you can't. For us, we can never sit there and say it's exposure only. I think it's not.
I think the other thing is, in little triumphs, it's funny and it's a little irrational. This week we had a new client in the food category, and Star Jones with 196,000 followers retweeted one of their tweets. They just loved it. Is it rational? Yeah, it kind of is, because she has 196,000 followers, and if only 1% of them were paying attention at that time, or less, they got a lot of exposure. So, those are kind of landmarks that they can point to, right, wrong, or indifferent, you can forward them and say, we accomplished something. The other thing is, despite this new study that I think Gallup did that's come out, in which everybody said they pay no attention to social media for brands and they never buy anything. That's been true for years. People denied right up and down and up and down and up and down when I worked on IBM that television advertising had anything whatsoever to do with the purchases. No one's going to say they buy things because they saw it on Twitter or because they saw it on Facebook. It's just not in human nature, by and large, to a researcher. Because it's an admission of sort of weakness to some extent. And ability to be persuaded, which is not cool these days. I was persuaded. Yeah, question.
So when you speak about the Star Jones' following on Facebook, and she has 200,000 followers, I actually have 3 questions. But the first question is, with Facebook policies around promotion of content through the brand pages and how they seem to be restricting promotions going out to those followers, has your agency experienced these kinds of constraints, and what are you doing to kind of circumvent that? I mean, what should a brand do to kind of get past that kind of wall? Are you sponsoring ads? What do you, I mean, do you believe in buying that type of promotion, and is it effective? So that's the first question.
Let's answer them one at a time. So.
That was one.
Yeah, okay, good. So let's talk about that. All right, forget. Go on to
Right.
So, yes, Facebook, Cheryl and Deborah arrived at Facebook, and one of her, she took a look around, and she said, this company has to make money. So, she's good at that. And one of the things they put on is this lid on exposing your posts to your follower feed, within your news feed to your followers. And it seems to be anywhere between 5 to 10, 12, 15%. Pretty consistently. Successful posts that are shared. Beautiful pictures, many of these things on here that are shared greatly get exposure if they're unpromoted. Because it gets beyond Facebook's control. Because people are looking at them, the 5 or 10% of people, and are sharing it. But that's really, really hard when you think about it, because the numbers are working against you, and they know that. So we promote a number of things. And then you get yourself into a whole nother presentation, which is how do you promote things on social media successfully. And that's becoming more and more and more complicated. Facebook isn't, we spend every day kind of sweating the best way to promote things for our client. What's the best content, what works best, what's the best demo, what do we apply to that? So it's very complicated, but you have to deal with that now. And I think you have to, you're going to have to advertise. You have to advertise there, you're going to have to advertise on Twitter, and there's going to be no free lunch in social media. It's going to become much more like a traditional media term. If you want to advertise in Time magazine, it's going to cost you X dollars. They're not letting you go there for free. So,
Okay. Second question.
yes.
Contests. What is your agency found works best in terms of contests? Is it where artists are allowed to post and you guys rate based on what works in terms of creating social contests?
Contests, that's a difficult question. We've run contests that absolutely don't work. Okay, that they gain followers, follow our page and get a chance to go on that trip or win a luggage or luggage and a trip in dollars or whatever you want. They sign up, they follow your page, they never ever engage with your page again. And so they're worth, most clients don't, I think they're dead on right. I was with a client out in New Jersey, different client, prospect a couple weeks ago, and she said, we do not want those kind of followers. We don't want to run contests. We don't want to grow our page with worthless followers. But, yeah.
Unless it's a, so sweepstakes, I would never do sweepstakes. We've done them before. You got crap fans, sorry for my
And this is us speaking. We've tried.
Yeah, but contests that are very thoughtful and have a lot to do with your brand. So the Remy Martin contest worked really well because it was people in a bar who were interested in brand, who wanted to participate in this fun, engaging thing that was very, very related to the brand. But when people have, enter this contest, you'll win an iPad, and you're a health and fitness brand, there's a disconnect there. You're just getting people who are signing up for the contest to win a free iPad.
Right.
But if it had, the Fry Boots contest, the photo contest, which honestly I'm a little sick of photo contests. I think that they're a little played out at this point. But that worked really well because the people who were participating already owned a pair of Fry Boots because they're taking pictures in them. They were loyal, this loyal group of people. So I think they can work, but they have to be very thoughtful. And you have to go into it knowing that you're not looking for 1 million fans, you're looking for a group of strong followers that you're just improving the relationship with the brand. It needs to be more about the follower than about you.
Right.
And I think that's what is kind of behind a really successful contest.
Okay, that makes sense. And then finally, of the 10 points you gave, if you had to choose one, which would you choose in terms of the
You're asking really good questions. You're asking good and hard questions. I would choose the visual, very, very relevant visual to a target audience that's informative.
I would choose educational content.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's the hardest to do because you really need to be coming up with something that's, the recipes, it seems really simple, right? But we're getting mixologists to develop recipes. We're getting photos of those recipes, and it's hopefully something that nobody's seen before, right? So it's a recipe like, wow, I never thought I could do that with tequila. That's really cool. And educational, everyone kind of sighs that when we talk to the clients about it, but educational isn't, you're not in school. It can be something like a tequila recipe and fun.
Right.
I think those are great, but yes, the take beautiful photos would probably be my second. But I think,
but the best is to combine, like a recipe with a beautiful photo that's highly attractive, that's very relevant to your audience. By the way, we do recipes for women-targeted sponsored posts that are different than recipes that are targeted to men. Obviously, with tequila, it's a different audience, And some recipes are dogs; they just don't work, And we learn that when we post them, and then we never use them again, by and large. So it's a constant self-improvement, really. I mean, you just can never be satisfied, and you have to constantly be on the road to make it better and better and better and better, which you can do. That's the wonderful thing about this, because you get constant feedback. Yes?
How about timing? What's the best timing you've figured out more or less during the day or evenings? What's the best timing?
It depends on your brand. It depends on your audience, and it depends on your brand. It really does. And I mean, you need to put things out at different times of the day and track them and see how they do. Typically, people say lunchtime, 11:30 to like 1:30. Some people vote a lot for that. We do very well in the evening, like after 8 or so, for alcohol. We do very well in the evening after 8 or so for travel and destinations. We do really well. I'm quite certain we're going to do really well for food and produce recipes, pretty much in the same area. But now the question is becoming, what day? So if people are preparing, if they want to make a certain kind of cool dish, do we reach them on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so they buy it and make it on Saturday or Sunday? And we don't know the answer to that yet, but we're on the road. That's a brand new client. So test at different times. Track carefully, and you'll learn.
the funny thing now, though, the thing that sort of throws a kink in it a little is when you're promoting posts. So if it's from, if you're like a drink recipe, let's say, that might ideally that you might want to post that. We have Thursday evening around 8 p.m. is like the peak, let's say. But if you're promoting it, you want to promote it much earlier in the day to get it out there because it goes over such a long period of time. So that, if it's a couple $100 spend, that is the only thing that timing is a little trickier when you're thinking about promotion.
And if you're promoting with text, you really have to pay attention to the rules about text, 20% or 25%. How much text goes on to that? Use the grid that they supply, or it gets projected. This is a very, very practical matter. But the whole deal is try different things, try different times. And it depends on the subject matter. Some subject matter will work better at certain times than other subject matter. So you'll find out. No, you will. But there's no magic bullet. It's up to you. It's your brand, your fun. I think we've been called off, which is probably good, as we managed to vamp for at least an hour. Any other questions? You guys have been great. Pretty good, good, 3:30 audience. Thank you very much. Hopefully,